Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm happy you're here tonight. We are going to do another Instagram Live talking about connecting with the body through spirit. And I'm just gonna invite Dana.
Wait, there you are.
Hello.
Let's see if we have no technical issues tonight.
That would be great, especially considering Mercury's in retrograde.
Maybe that's why it'll be okay tonight.
Maybe.
Yeah. Oh, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm doing good. I'm glad there's only about, I think, 3 more days of Mercury in retrograde because I've been feeling it.
Oh, well, this time I didn't even look at the dates. I was just like, screw it. I don't even want to know this time. So I'm happy to hear there's only 3 more days. I thought it was maybe 2 more weeks. So
I did
cool.
as well, and I checked on it. I actually checked on it yesterday because I wanted to know. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Hey, cool. I have been feeling it though, for sure. I've definitely been, yeah. So, but yeah, we're here tonight to talk about feeling something else. So we're excited to talk about connecting to our bodies.
Absolutely. I think it's especially, really interesting because I feel like on our spiritual journey, separate and together, I feel like it's a message that keeps growing and kind of coming through with greater intensity, and a sort of
Yeah.
deeper meaning.
Yeah, that's so true. Especially now, we can get into it later, but this is something that I just thought of that we didn't talk about, but I'm sure it'll come up and keep coming up. But like, since we've been doing divine feminine work, like we're connecting to the water in our bodies and really connecting to the sacral. So yeah, we can dive deeper into that later. But
I think too, connecting to our own ability to birth and to give life to not only in a physical way, but in a spiritual and an emotional way as well. Yeah. Yeah, I never thought about that connection, but yeah, we should. I'm writing that down because I think it's a big one.
Yeah, we have so many notes for this one for everyone.
Absolutely. And I think it's interesting how, we were kind of talking about like, well, where are we like, where are we with this sort of like journey of connecting with spirit through the body? And I think we were talking about, we did a collective journey for the Lionsgate portal on 8/8 of this month. And in that journey, we had so many messages come forward that were connected to the body and to using the body as not so much a tool of healing, but using the body to heal, which I think is a big difference. Like the body's not just necessarily one of many tools, but the body is like the vehicle upon which we have to sort of like direct this sort of healing journey.
Yeah. And you found, do you want to tell everyone you found like a really good quote from that journey that I think is perfect?
Absolutely. And, after we do our collective journeys, we sit down and we listen to them again to really, really get the good stuff out of it. This journey is also up on YouTube as well if anyone wants to listen to it. But in that journey, we had one of the messages that was channeled was, and I'm reading sort of like quote by an actual quote, is as we move forward on this journey, part of how we move into the embodiment of this new multidimensional awareness is through our bodies. And then it goes on to say it's not about just going through our bodies. It's about, like going through our hearts, our stomachs, our brains, our mouths, and our throats. And it talks about the embodiment of healing is like literally not going without, but going within. That all of these places we imagine we must journey to are really like contained within. Yeah. And I think that that's true. And on our journey, especially in our work with Mary Magdalene, the word embodiment keeps coming up, right?
Yeah. Over and over.
Yeah.
yeah, and really just tapping in and seeing like this is something that I was telling you as well, like going into the chakras, like into the body, but
Mm-hmm.
also, doing like what I like to call chakra scanning, and where you go through, like I sit in meditation and I just head to toe kind of scan each chakra, and each chakra, is associated with different body parts. And so I just ask, like, what does this chakra want to say to me today? What's going on? Like, maybe it's the heart chakra, and maybe my arms are like really tense or tight or sore or tingling or something. And that's a one way that spirit communicates through like the chakras and the physicality. Um, but yeah.
Absolutely. For both of us, we had a lot of solar plexus stuff that was coming up for a while in the journeys that we were doing. And they were connected to stomach issues, connected to digestive issues, connected to issues with the womb. Really, really strong stuff. And then what was so interesting, too, is a lot of times you'll be doing this own healing in your life. And then I started to talk to all these people in my life that were also having stomach issues. And I could see the issues. Oh, that was my cat. I'm so sorry.
He's like, what's this phone doing here?
He likes to rub his face against the phone stand. So, yeah.
But yeah, I noticed like for my husband, like when like anytime he gets really angry or upset or something, like he'll just be in the bathroom all night, and it's like it didn't hit me for a while, and then I realized I was like, this is not like really so much about the physical, but it's more like about the processing of emotions and different things that are going to manifest in a physical way. And a lot of illnesses are like that.
Oh,
It's
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, like when you
Yeah.
get sick, and have these different issues in your body, like a lot of times, if you really sit with it and go deep, you'll find that the root cause is more emotional than
Absolutely.
physical.
Yeah. And it's interesting, too, that you mentioned your husband as an example for that.
Mm-hmm.
I also see that in my husband, but I saw that in my father growing up. And it comes from the inability, I think, in our society for men to be allowed to truly process their emotions and truly know how they feel and be
That's
able to
true.
express how they feel.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's really fascinating. So it creates those sorts of blockages. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah.
yeah. And I'm sure we've all felt it ourselves too. We have a tough
Mm-hmm.
conversation, and then suddenly,
Mm-hmm.
oh wow, we gotta use the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Not TMI here, but it's a real thing, and
But
I
it's
think people can
true.
relate to it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Or
yeah.
even like another on the subject, I'll just give a quick example. Like when I first started doing my trauma healing, I kid you not, I was under so much stress, and I was working a lot and trying to, maintain my working balance and center. And yeah, it was just horrible. And I was going through all these things that like I didn't expect. And all of a sudden, I broke out with this rash on my back so bad that I went to the dermatologist, who, funny enough, just side note, told me to wash my back with Head and Shoulders shampoo for the rest of my life. And I looked at her, I was just like, bye. But like a month later, it was gone. I didn't do
Yeah.
anything, and I just went through what I needed to go through and heal, and I healed, and the rash went away.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, 100%. There's this really cool book that it first came out in the 70s. It's called Heal the Body, and it's
Mm,
by Louisa Hay. And it has it. What it is you look up each individual thing. So let's say you're experiencing back pain, you would look up back pain.
mm,
Sorry, my cat again. Um, you would look up back pain, and you would do lower back pain, upper back pain, middle back
mm,
pain, and you would look up the things that people were experiencing. And for lower back pains, it was like feelings of shame and guilt. And
mm,
then she would give you a mantra you use to sort of help release that built up energy. And I started looking up people I knew and myself to see their ailments and then look at what it was. And it was like, boom, like one thing after the other. I was like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really crazy. Yeah.
But
What we wanted to talk about also, like, so when we say like we're connecting to spirit through the body, like what does that mean? And there is a term for it. It's called clairsentience. There are 6 clairs, and each one is a different sense, but the clairsentience is clear feeling. And it is how we use our bodies to communicate with spirit. So not only communicate with our bodies, but to spirit and kind of back. So you and I were talking about some really, I mean, there's so many ways. There's so many ways and different feelings and things that we have experienced. I think you and I, the full range of all the feelings.
Absolutely, for sure. And we both work with the same mentor. That's how we met. And that was something she was big on too, was connecting the body to how you feel. And I know from walking into her, psychic circles, I started with the psychic circles with her. I just, I know you get this too, but if a spirit comes forward, feeling the way they passed in your body is huge. If they had a heart attack, you get pain around your chest, I remember once someone was shot through the shoulder and I was like, oh my goodness, I could feel it there. Like it was literally as if something was going into my body. I felt the impact. What are some, I think we could like go on with this, but
probably.
Yeah.
I have experienced someone being shot. One thing that's is not how they died, but it's something similar. So, and this was a pretty intense experience and really interesting to see the 3 people that I was with. It was interesting to see how they experienced what I was feeling. So one of the first times I went to Peru, my husband's sister was dating this guy. They're now married, but his father had recently passed. I went there kind of during COVID, like right after, and he was having a hard time with it. And so he said to me, like, can you do a reading for me? And I said, okay, for sure, And so we sat down, the 4 of us in the circle, and I opened the circle and I brought his dad through. And then because they didn't speak English, my husband was translating into Spanish. But then while he was doing that, I was sitting there and like kept receiving information. And all of a sudden, I just had this wave of sadness and emotion come over me. And I just started crying and crying. And it just like, it started out slowly and then it got more intense, more intense, and more intense, to the point where finally my husband looked at me and he was like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I'm fine." I said, "I'm not crying." I said, "His father is crying through me." And it was like, even like, how, if you really think about it, we all have different ways in which we cry, right? Or like express whatever emotion, but you could be a loud crier, a soft crier, like, there's just different little, very different subtleties. And when the guy looked up and looked over at me, and I just let it go, I said, okay, I'm here, I will let you, and I really felt that his dad needed that. He needed to release that emotion through me. But when that guy looked up, he said to me, "I know it's not you. That is 100% my father crying." Because he could see the way that I was crying and just the body movements and like the different, like I said, those little subtleties. And for me, it was really interesting.
Yes, that's so powerful too, to be able to, like directly sort of channel that emotion out and through. It's Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's really powerful. And it's a really wild experience, too, to have your body become really overshadowed, for lack of a better word. I mean, like,
Yeah.
you're handing yourself over to some extent, for a very
Mhm.
good and wonderful cause, and that's part too
Mhm.
of part of him being able, had that not happened, would he have truly communicated with the message of that spirit? Would he have allowed himself to open up
Mhm.
to hear, you know?
Mhm.
And that
Yeah.
probably caused a release for everybody there as well,
Oh, yeah.
to sort of release that emotion and to
It
really,
def yeah, it did for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. And I think, yeah, like, that's like, I think, a perfect example of clairsentient,
Mhm.
and it's
Mhm.
almost like the body becomes this antenna, or
Mhm.
something. It becomes this sort of like, for, the same way an antenna used to function on a TV. You'd have to adjust it to find the
Mhm.
right connection to allow the right thing to come through.
Yeah.
And I even think within clairsentience, there's the internal clairsentience, which is the sort of like gut feelings, the feeling of
Mhm.
dread, the things that tell you don't do this, or the things that
Mhm.
make you feel light and like, oh, I have to do this, I have to follow this, right? But then when you're communicating with spirit, the external ones, like, the feeling of cold, of being cold,
Mhm.
that's a big
Mhm.
one. The feeling of being hot too
Also
sometimes,
hot, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and sometimes you can use that heat and cold. Like for me, spirits feel cold, but maybe extraterrestrials and elementals and things like that tend to feel warmer
Warm.
or
Mhm.
bubbly or tingly or
Tingly,
elevated.
yeah.
Yeah, whereas spirit, I may
Yeah.
feel cold and sort of like this, like
Uh-huh.
shivering. What
Yeah.
else? Goosebumps,
Goosebumps,
the
yeah.
literal
Uh,
goosebumps.
yeah. Yeah. A big one for me, and I know we both experience this a lot, is anxiety, especially when we are clearing something. When we're in a journey with spirit and the energy is leaving the body, I feel like I
Yeah,
get a lot of anxiety.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely a clearing thing. Sometimes it's the message of the spirit coming through, especially if you're
Mm.
working with earthbounds that need to be crossed. You get the anxiety
Yeah,
and the fear that
yeah.
comes through with that. That's not, and it's true, like all of a sudden you didn't have anxiety and then you have it, so like where's it coming from,
Hmm. Yeah.
And that's what I think people don't realize too when they come across spirits in our life, that these changes that happen with our body, when there's no good reason for it, like that might be a
Mm.
reception that you need. Like, let's pay attention and see, do I have a spirit
Yeah.
with me? Like that would be the time to tune in. When your body
Yeah.
starts to be that antenna, that your consciousness,
Mm.
like maybe you're not picking it up through like through hearing or through clear knowing or the other clairs, but for some reason, like the body is
Mm.
just, um,
Yeah. There's actually, it's a good time to mention this. So there's actually something that I do, not all the time because now I kind of know what we're doing, but I still like to come back to it. Is like before we sit, like if you want to intentionally work with spirit, right? Before I sit down to open the circle, I just scan again head to toe my body and I take note, and not just physically, but also like emotionally and mentally, and even spiritually sometimes. And I just like go through like really quick. It can be like just a few seconds, and I say, okay, but let's say, we're talking about physical right now. Like for right now, I would say, okay, right now, my back is a little bit sore. But other than that, I have no pains or aches or feelings in my body. Let's
yeah,
say then I open the circle and then I get some wild, crazy pain in my foot. For me, that is a clear
yeah,
message that that is spirit, that is not me.
yeah,
And for me, that's really helpful, especially when in the beginning, just to like differentiate between, like, because I know people will ask like, well, how do I know that's spirit and not me? And I always say this
yeah,
is this is a good technique to play
Yeah.
with.
Yeah. And the more you do it, then you learn to trust. You just know,
Right. You
like,
just know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
most of us don't walk around and get sudden pains for no reason in our body,
Right.
and if we do, like,
Mm-hmm.
sure, you don't want to ignore the medical side of it, but you also have to understand when the medical side doesn't make any sense, like that, then let's
Mm-hmm.
look at something else there,
Yeah.
But there's also people that are medical intuitives. And that's a big way
Oh,
that they
yeah.
work, like that's a
Mm-hmm.
big part of what they do, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's not so much something that I'll pick up on it here and there, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's my a forte or anything like that. It just sometimes steps in
Yeah.
more than others,
Mine either. Yeah.
I also think too, using some other tools, such as automatic writing. That's a big tool that people use. You're literally allowing your hand to be the vehicle for spirit to release information. And sometimes you look down and you're like, wow, I wrote this, and like it's weird.
Yeah.
A few years back, I was, well, actually, probably well over 5 years at this point, I was really into the pendulum. And I put it to the side because I felt like I wasn't relying enough on my intuition and more on that to gauge an answer. But when I was using the pendulum, I would literally feel as if there was a hand on top of my hand.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's
Um,
really strong with the pendulum.
yeah. And the first two times that happened, well, really more than the first two times that happened, I had to work through a lot of fear. Like, that was like that laying on of the hands. Like, that was always having been intuitive my entire life. Experiences I had as a child with feeling spirits, with your head being touched or your back, or just feeling like someone brushed past you. Even the feeling of being looked at and watched, I think, kind of fits into the clairsentience category a little bit too.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
There's a lot of fear, I think, that can come up for people with working through clairsentience, and you really have to, and I think it's important too. I had to learn in the beginning to say to spirit, I want to receive this message, but I need you to take 2 giant steps back. Like the physical route is
move it.
move it back. It's kind of like, as a woman, you have to learn how to, like, be firm and reclaim your body, right? Like,
Yeah.
same thing.
Boundary spirit.
No means no.
No, yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's true actually, and it's something I didn't really think about because now, well, I think that kind of happened to me too with the boundaries, and then I don't know, spirit just hasn't really come back. The boundaries are down. You can come now.
Yeah.
But I was also really, because when I first started opening, I would have someone. There was a man in my one apartment, and like, he would come and like touch my arm, not in like an inappropriate way, but just like to get my attention.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what?
Yeah.
So I think yeah, there's definitely a lot of fear.
Yeah, and I think
Which
sometimes
makes
spirit
sense.
doesn't always know. Like, they're humans too.
Hmm.
They don't they don't always know the right way to do this either. Like, just as we have to work on the connection, I think they do too.
Hmm.
Um, but sometimes too, the clairsentience can kind of come through in a really beautiful way. I had an experience before I had my daughter, and I don't remember the particulars, but I was going through something, and I was super, super upset, right? And I was crying, and I was sitting on the sofa, and I had this one spot on the sofa that I always meditated, and I could feel the sort of buildup of energy there. It was like my spiritual spot. And I was sitting there, and I was like this, kind of, when you get mad or upset, you cross your arms. And all of a sudden, I could feel, I was aware of the weight of something in my arm. Like, it's as if I was holding something. And when I sat with that, and I felt this sort of warmness and this comfort and this peace come over me, and then I realized that I was holding a baby. And I could feel myself, and I know
Wow.
now that, and this dawned on me later, sitting there, probably well over a year or two later, sitting there and holding my daughter, that in some moment, somehow, spirit was showing me that comfort and that sort of, like that sort of joy or peace that could come from that kind of connection, and that sort of like just sense of just joy, really, purely, So that's
really
clairsentient,
beautiful.
right? Like, not the
Yeah.
typical experience, but kind of the flip side, I think, to what we were talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, that's really beautiful. Um, well, I'm gonna take a tiny step back, teeny tiny. Like Dennis said, there are many beautiful ways to experience clairsentience, but there was one that I wanted to share with everyone that I was telling you before, about was when I first, yeah, again, like in the class that we took in the very beginning. No, I've had this technique done 3 different times in 3 different ways, but this was the most intense. And besides like feeling how spirits died, I think it's second to that in just intensity. And I will say I wasn't scared.
Mm-hmm.
This was by by no means a scary experience. It was just intense. And it was when one of my guides came to me and he performed a third eye activation. Now, I don't know if anyone is familiar with this. I don't know. Let's say legend. For now, I personally do believe that they did practice this, and I probably would say that they're probably still doing it. But anyway, it's this Tibetan technique where they will um, sit down and physically do this, but I received it energetically. So they take almost like an acupuncture needle, a really long, thin needle, and they insert it in the middle of the head all the way back to the pineal gland. And it's a technique to stimulate the pineal gland. So again, I've heard that they do this physically, but I
Mm-hmm.
received this from a guide energetically. And let me tell you, I felt as if it was a real physical thing. And what I was telling Dana before, like, it's so funny because even before the guide came and did it, he looked at me and he said, "Be still." And I said, "What?" Okay, I'll be still. Not having any idea of what he was going to do. And then I started to feel it, and I literally could feel it going all the way back, and I was like, what is going on? But and again, like, he told me to be still, and I did honor that. Like, I really
Mm-hmm.
wanted to move and just be like, I'm done. But I sat there and I just said, okay, I'm just gonna receive. And it was a wonderful
Yeah.
experience. It was, like I said, it wasn't scary. It wasn't anything I was, afraid of, but it was an intense physicality.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think, like kind of what we were talking about earlier, like we have to be able to sit in the gentle moments and the sort of like
Hmm.
intense moments, like, and
Hmm.
really when we do trust and sit in those intense moments and we realize they really aren't intense, like they're not
Hmm.
what we would make them out to be, you
Yeah.
know. When we let go of the fear, we realize, oh, so
Hmm.
there's some real beautiful healing that can be found in something that wouldn't seem that
Yeah.
way. Um,
Right.
yeah, for sure. I remember one time you had done like like Reiki on me. Well, but it was
Mm.
still beyond Reiki because it was also like an intuitive session,
Mm.
and there was an extraterrestrial guide that came through and was doing work on my leg. I don't know if you
Mm.
remember this session, and it was almost like I could
Yeah.
feel as if like the feeling of being like something being sewn or like work done or mended.
Mm.
And it was like a real thing I felt, it was as if like
Mm.
I was at the doctor or, like, and it was just, and it was just, it was what needed to be done.
Hmm.
um, yeah, that absolutely happens. And I think more and more too, moving into doing the hands-on healing, is when we do the sort of laying of hands on bodies. Like there's been points, like when I did the retreat in the fall, and we were doing hands-on work with people, where you were literally doing things above a person's body that would resemble if you were doing surgery or doing
Hmm.
massage or doing
Hmm.
some other form of like hands-on healing, but you're working literally on the energy field that's above their body. That, I mean, that's clairsentience too. Like you're feeling the
Hmm.
energetic body. Um, know, and it kind of feels like, you know, it's like we know that we're a spirit that has a soul who lives in a body, right? So there's all of these layers of like sort of how we can heal, you know, and what's the kind of connection is the body in a way, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Another thing that we talked about too that I think is really fascinating too is, you know, we come into this lifetime and we hold this body for, if we're lucky, 90, 100 years, right? When you look at the total span of our endless eternal life, like how many lifetimes and how many multi-dimensional awarenesses we have, it's really wild, but this body can contain clues to those things. Like we come in carrying that energetic baggage, you know. So if we, for example, there was a life I had where I was shot through the back as I was riding away by an arrow on a horse. That feeling of that pain and that spot of the back, once I had that awareness brought to it, I've never once experienced that form of back pain again. And this was something that would come forward when I felt stressed out. And I think a lot of people experience issues with the back in periods of high stress, you know. It's a pretty common thing, you know. But I'm sure we've both seen that in our own healing work that we've done with people, like, you know, like, oh, okay, do you have issues with your shoulder? Okay, because I'm seeing that this happened and this is how you died and this is what it related to the experience in your life, and they can take it, you know, they can just take it, you know, and they understand it. And there's so many case studies where people are having issues and they get this awareness and they release
for sure. And release it, and it's no longer an issue, for sure. I'm just looking at my notes. Another thing that we find very interesting with the body is detoxing and food, really connecting to food and seeing how food, we know, right, that food affects the body in a physical sense, but it also affects it in a spiritual sense. And for me, I've noticed, so I'm like vegan vegetarian, and I've been so for 16 plus years now, but I notice that even when I eat lighter, I connect easier to spirit. And I feel like for me personally, it's the idea of raising your vibration. Like just eating lighter literally makes your energy lighter, and doing so allows you to be on a higher frequency and then receiving information quicker, more intense, and connecting even with higher frequency and higher dimensional beings.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. You know, the same way, like energetically, you know, clearing ourselves of, really mindful of the stuff we watch and listen to and the people we interact with can allow us to get a higher level of spiritual interaction. Totally. You're so right about that. Now, for me, I go back and forth between the vegetarian and vegan thing. I've ride that roller coaster for well over 20 years, and I can definitely notice the difference. And for me, I wouldn't say so much about how easily I can connect. It's about the higher vibration of what I connect with. So if I get more earthbound, I can see where I maybe am on a period where I'm not, you know, having that sort of, whether it goes for, not just for the body, but for what I'm intaking, both through food, through media, through books, through television shows I'm watching, but also my ability to, someone can always say to me, Dana, I want you to pick up on something for me. And I can pick up on something for them, but I can't always do it for myself. But when I have that clean diet and I'm not drinking a lot of coffee and I'm like really drinking water, then I can feel that in my own body, those answers for myself in a much clearer way. You know, which I think is interesting. because I think, when we talk about gut feelings, and this is something I always say to people, because I tend to get a lot of people who come to me for readings, and they're in this weird process of opening up for themselves, where they want to do it, but they have a lot of fear around it. And then probably because they're having kind of creepy experiences, and that's really something I had to work through on my own journey. And one of the things I say to them is you have to learn in your own body where you hear a yes and where you feel a no. And for me, a no or a bad idea or don't go down this route is always a drop in my stomach, a pit feeling in my stomach. And a yes is always like a fluttering or a lightness in my heart. And if my body's clearer and freer of things, I can feel those yeses and nos easier, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
What's something else? Epsom salt baths
Yes.
are another really big one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Clearing that energy. It feels
Yeah.
so good.
And physically, it helps clear our body. A lot of days after you take an Epsom salt bath, I don't know about you, but like I have to, I pee more. Like I literally, my body is literally clearing out. I feel like I'm doing a lot of too much information today, but yeah. But I think that's really important,
Yeah, for sure.
Some,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no. I think you were probably gonna, yeah.
I was maybe the same thing. So for me, stretching, and I know I tell you this all the time, but especially so, our bodies, yes, they're very intuitive, right? And especially when we have some kind of painful situation or argument or trauma or whatever it is, the body stores it subconsciously and we have to release it. And, yes, we can release it working with spirit, but one of my favorite things to do is stretching the hips. And anytime, like after we journey, or something intense happens, my hips will be killing me. And so then I sit down and I intentionally stretch the hips with that intention to release, that energy and communicate with it too. Like, okay.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. Like, I love when you share with me about this because I think it's really powerful, and I think too it connects a lot too with the hip stretching, also with a lot of the divine feminine womb work and stuff. Like, there's a connection there with that area of the body and all of that energy opening. For me, something that I've noticed, and this is like a really simple thing, and this is something I experienced more when I was working more of a corporate management job, and but I still do get this sometimes. But when I sit down to meditate, or if I sit down before we journey, or I do spiritual work, or work with a client, or go to a group, or something like that, is really making sure I relax the muscles in my face, because the amount of stress that we carry in our face, almost like, like if you really consciously relax your face and ask the muscles in your face to relax and release that stress, you can almost like literally feel it like falling away from you. Same thing with kind of stretching your neck to get all that built up energy around your neck out. That's really important. That's always something I do. Yeah, exactly. Like sometimes you can hear a pop too. It feels really good. But right there, what you're doing is you're clearing your third eye, you're clearing your crown chakra and your third chakra as well. And those are ways in which we communicate. We are able to verbally give our message. We're able to use our third eye to get information, right? And the crown is what our connection to source.
Wow, I love that. You never told me that. That's amazing.
Yeah, like I actually made all these notes and didn't even put that on there. It came organically out of our conversation. I'm like, oh, that's a big one. I feel like I should share that with people. That's a good one.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I'm gonna try it for sure.
And kind of the opposite point of that would be something you were sharing with me about grounding.
Yes. Yeah, it's, when I just did it today because we had, I needed to take a walk today and Spirit gave us the message the other night. They were showing us to like go sit with our backs against the tree and kind of put our head like this. And so I went to there's a beautiful cemetery here, and I went to the cemetery and I found this tree, and so I laid on the tree, but then I also put my feet on the ground. And when we talk so much about grounding, and sometimes I feel like it, it's just a term we throw around, right? Ground, 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 ground. But it's so simple, but it's so powerful. And when we physically put our feet on the ground, we are allowing all that electromagnetic energy from our bodies, from our auric field, to go down through the body and let the earth take it. And again, it's just so simple, but it's so powerful. And it's also like you can ground, or there's something, I love the term, it's called forest bathing. And it's basically when you just walk through nature, and the same, like you just allow the nature to absorb all of that energy that doesn't serve you.
Yeah.
And it feels really good.
Yeah. Oh, totally. I love that forest bathing. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's so
It's a
beautiful.
good term.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
love it.
and really with the grounding too, when you allow that energy to come back up through the earth, like you can feel that sort of like feeling of sort of like feel it coming back into you, and that almost that feeling of being held by the earth, or that feeling of um
Yeah.
heaviness, but in a rooted way,
Mm-hmm.
like you're not going to blow away or something like that, like that sort of feeling, like okay, like
Yeah.
the earth has me, I'm being held, and what is that? That's your earth star chakra. That's your root chakra. You know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Oh, it'd be interesting to think about how does the heart chakra and like where are those connections? I don't know
Mm.
that I have the answer for that now, but I feel
Hmm.
like it would be interesting to figure that out.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Huh, yeah, and you just you reminded me of something. But I'm gonna make a little note. Um, well, one other thing that I wanted to talk about is so I so I'm back in the US right now, and it's already been 2 weeks. I don't know how, but right before I came back, I did ayahuasca, and my intention was to heal the body. So I had this very interesting experience because um, I have done it before, right? But every time is totally different. Every time is very unique. And we're like you and I, we are so visual when we do journeys and all these other things. Like we always see things. Um, so this time my intention was to heal the body, and you take it, or you should take it in like smaller doses. So like what my husband does is he was with me, and he breaks it up into like two or three cups. So it's one dose, but it's two or three cups that you take over time. And so I took the first dose, and it was very strong. This one actually took a little more than half, I think. It was 2 cups. So I actually had this really beautiful like little shell that I bought. Oh my God. I don't have it here, so I can't show you guys. But anyway, so I drank a little more than half, and we were outside in this like beautiful eucalyptus forest, and it takes about an hour. So like an hour later, I was starting to feel it in the body, and um, it was really starting to get really, really intense. So I had blankets, I laid down, and I was just looking up at the trees and just like watching the trees, and then all of a sudden, at some point, I was like, "What is happening?" My entire body went numb. It felt like when you go to the dentist and you get Novocaine. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
My entire body. And I looked at my husband and I said, "Is this normal?" Because I haven't had this happen before. And
Yeah. Yeah.
he said to me, "You did set the intention to heal your body."
Mhm.
And I said,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. So I was a little freaked out in the beginning, I have to admit, because I was like, I've
Yeah.
never experienced this before. But again, he reminded me, he's like, you set the intention with
Mhm.
spirits. He said, so that is your body's way in this moment of processing the medicine and allowing it to like be absorbed into your body.
Absolutely. Spirit wanted you to be still for that. They really wanted you to feel it, like to feel the
Mm-hmm.
feeling of numbness in your body, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, yeah, that's really powerful. And I think, and I think to get that answer to like, you know, is that the integration part of it, right? Like, you know, like really realizing that and be like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you know, yeah, it's really beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I also thought it was an interesting journey because just the timing and like the way, I won't go into too much detail, but like the way the whole session happened, like I wasn't able to go like deep into it where I was seeing all the crazy visions, right? But and I was like at some point I was like a little disappointed. I was seeing things, but then I said to myself, okay, but your intention was to heal the body, and you see visions all the time. And
Yeah,
so I was like, I just took that and I was like, okay, I'm fine with it because that was the intention, like to work with it in my body. And oh, one more thing I wanted to mention is like, so that was on a Sunday, and from Sunday to Thursday, I could still feel it. I could still feel the medicine in my body, especially after I ate. And I think there, I said to Leo, I said, there's something about eating that I feel like is almost activating the medicine still for like a few days after. And I was still feeling this like, it was like a tingling, just like a warm, tingling feeling all over the
yeah,
body.
yeah.
Um, so I was really like consciously eating and consciously like feeling that and trying to allow the body to absorb, to understand, you know.
Yeah. But you were saying something too. I remember you telling me something about the experience of eating, taking a bite or two or something during the journey, and like,
Oh yeah.
what was it? You were saying how wonderful that tasted, like the, um,
Yes, yes. So I said to my husband, I said, I want to go. We had in Peru, we had this beautiful eucalyptus forest near us. So I said, I want to go there and do the ceremony. And so he made a fire, outside, and he's like, I'm gonna cook. So he made like a really beautiful like khichdi curry Indian dish. And so I was like watching him do it, while I was on the Aya. But then when it was done was right after I drank the rest of the dose, and it was maybe 20 minutes into. It usually takes an hour to activate, so it was 20
yeah,
minutes into the second cup, and he was sitting there and he was eating and enjoying it, and he's very flexible when it comes to the what you can and cannot do on ayahuasca.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so he was eating and I said, fuck it, I want a bite. It just smelled amazing, looked amazing. He's a great cook. So I actually took two bites. Um, but oh my God, it was like he had me cracking up because I was eating it and I said to him, this is the best thing I've ever had. And he just started laughing and he's like, that's because you're tripping.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And I was like, I don't care. It's delicious. But yeah, it was really funny.
Hey,
But
yeah,
yeah, it was just that heightened,
yeah.
clairsentience.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
maybe too, it feels like there might be some sort of message in there about the joy of eating, like really enjoying what
Oh,
you're eating for
yeah.
sure, you
Yeah.
know? And
Right.
I think so few of us do that. Most people are on autopilot when they eat, you know?
Mm.
Or they're like,
Mm.
they're eating and
Mm.
watching TV or eating and talking or, so the focus isn't on what you're eating, it's on like
Right.
all these other things, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um, you know, I don't know why I feel called to share this. This is very random, and please, you or someone can comment on the guy's name. I feel like it's Eric something, but anyway, there's this guy, and I think he does the Wild Fit program, but it's like an eating program. And so anyway, I was watching like this master class with him, and he was explaining how we eat, and
The medical
specifically,
medium.
no,
No?
no,
Oh,
no, someone
oh,
else.
okay,
No,
okay.
I do love him though.
Yeah, okay.
Um, but I think he was explaining, I could be wrong, it was a long time ago, but I think he was explaining about how we eat sugar, like berries and stuff like that, any sugar. But he was explaining something like when we were like hunter gatherers, right? And the fruit came and the berries came. We were so distracted from the actual um, method of like eating because we were too focused on watching for animals that are coming around, and we were so like, is there a tiger coming, is there a lion coming, that we were just like eating all the berries
Yeah,
until it was
okay.
gone, and then we would get up and go. And I think that that's still, he was saying that like that still translates today. That's why we distract ourselves, like you said, we're watching
Yeah.
TV, we're talking, we're
Mm-hmm.
something. I think that's part of why we probably overeat as a
Yeah.
society, but
Oh, for sure.
but
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing, like when we sit down and we're really mindful of what we're eating and how, even this, like how we're feeling, like, and I think that's one of the beautiful things about doing what we do is that we really center ourselves in the moment, and we really
Mm-hmm.
allow ourselves to feel things that, because of just our lifestyle now, we as a society we don't normally feel and
Mm-hmm.
experience.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I know, to share like a little story from when I was really coming to terms with the fact that, like, I see spirits, that I hear spirits, that I have
Mm-hmm.
these interactions with them. I had discovered ways of turning them off, and some of them were connected to the body. One was using drugs. If you smoke enough or you drink enough, you're not
I'm
going to
not
pick
gonna
up
say
on
that.
things. So then, going through the journey of getting clean and not doing that, and then being like, okay, oh, well, the spirits are still here. Am I ready to deal with it? No. So one of the things I did at night, because my husband worked nights, coming from the restaurant and bartending industry for years. So I worked a day job, so I would be home by myself sometimes on the nights I wasn't going out. And in order to tune out the stuff I knew was there, I would just sit and overeat and crunch the chips. And on autopilot, watching something or talking on the phone or reading a book, whereas I would then could tune out better what
Mm-hmm.
was happening around me. And there was something and still with this day, I know if like I go to town with a bag of chips or something, I know there's something I'm not paying attention to, you know? And if I really
Yeah.
sit and really look and am mindful, and I think we were talking about this the other day, that's when I realized, oh, I've collected some earthbounds that need to go,
Needs to be crossed.
because
Yeah.
of a sort of stressful situation I was working through and not being at home. And it's like, oh, wow, you can really turn those things off. And you know what I did when I was staying there at night? What did I do at night? I ate chip bags from the bodega, which prompted me to say I want to detox,
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So
Yeah.
there's so many ways to do that, in our relationships with food. And for me as a psychic medium, like that was definitely part of one of the ways I found to tune it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's really true. That's interesting.
Yeah. I
Um,
feel like that is also an interesting thing to talk about.
yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
We could definitely do a live about that.
Yeah.
We always get our ideas as we're talking.
I know.
Um, I'm gonna write that down so because I have a very interesting experience, something
Yeah.
I could share. Tuning
Yeah.
out spirit.
But on the flip side of that, and I know maybe I'm like changing course of the conversation a little bit, but on the flip side, I think one of the things that I wanted to point out is that, I think that I feel like I'm consciously aware of trying to balance the good and the bad on this journey, or things that people would consider bad, even though they're not bad, they're part of the healing journey. We have to be able to go to both spaces. Is
Mm-hmm.
I think a big thing that people ask a lot, and is, how does it feel when spirit contacts with you, right? Like, how does it feel
Mm-hmm.
when we're having these connections with spirit? Like, how does it feel in the body?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we are talking a little bit about earlier is like how does it feel when spirit enters into your body, or into your into your energy field where your body feels it. And we were kind of talking about that concept that you hear in mainstream religion where they say the Holy Spirit has entered me. So we're not going to have a religious discourse here on that, but they're onto something with that. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, it's to that point, and it's similar experience to what you were saying about the baby experience you had earlier, or you were talking about earlier. But so one of the first experiences I had very similar to that is when I had to go to court for something, and I had to write something that was it was just very hard to write. And so I just sat down in my room, I lit some candles, and I literally closed my eyes and was typing on my laptop. And I did this technique that I hadn't done before, and it was I don't even think I was taking class or psychic class with our mentor by then. So I think it was very new to me. But my friend had given me a book. Let me try to think about the name of it. It was something about your life purpose, something about figuring out your life purpose. When I think of the book, I will put it in the comments. But anyway, so the guy in the book was describing how to feel spirit. And it was so I did this technique, and it was such an interesting thing. But he said, he was more, I think, talking about angels. So he said to just sit down and call the angels in, and then you'll just feel them, and set the intention to you ask them, you say, I want to feel you. And it was just this really light, beautiful energy that was just soft, and I just felt this warm, soft feeling come over me, like someone's coming and giving you a hug or something. And it really blew me away, because I did it without really expecting anything. And it happened, and I was just like, wow. But yeah, for me, that was my Holy Spirit experience.
But that's such a great place to start, because first off, there's no fear. When you ask an angel to come in, you don't have to have fear, right?
True.
Really, it's such a beautiful, wonderful, lovely experience to start.
It is,
so then you get to have that experience and say, okay, I've got the good side of feeling spirit. So then if you're not having a good moment, you can call your angels, and then how your body's going to feel that it's better is that you feel this way, and we've had that where we're doing work, and we're helping a spirit cross, and sometimes we've had to cross multiple spirits at once, and there is that feeling of heaviness, there is that feeling of other things, and then when they cross, it's done, because suddenly you start to feel all of the beings that come for them when the light opens. And, okay, now it feels better. This is one of the ways that something's been successful in the spiritual work you do.
It feels lighter.
Feels so much lighter. You feel calm. You feel a sense of love. Feeling like you're surrounded by light, by seeing light. I literally see light. I see the white light. I see the gold light. Sometimes it's colored. What is it? There's also that sense of you just know. This feeling of knowing kind of wraps you like a blanket, or with the angels, you can sometimes almost feel the wings. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It feels holy,
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. I almost feel like to say something feels holy, I almost feel like we need to reclaim that word from religion. We need to say we can experience holiness too. Holiness isn't just for this,
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I agree. For sure. Yeah. I mean, to me, it's the same. It's almost the same as saying something is sacred, you know. But it's it's an interesting term, but
it's a word I tend not to use because of the
Me
associations that come with it. But I really do love the word. It's a beautiful word,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Same.
make a note how to reclaim the word holy.
how do we use it? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think we covered a lot here, and
Yeah.
I mean,
I bet
there's
if,
just like endless ways.
yeah. I bet if we look up the origins of the word holy, it probably dates back to
Probably.
it probably has some
Let's do
origins
that.
of yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we
Yeah.
covered a lot here. Wow. We've been going for over an
Yeah.
hour, so yeah.
Yes. And we could keep going. I'm
Yes.
sure we have so many experiences,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I think too, like a cool thing, would be to, if anyone watches this, to let us know, like, what experiences have you had? Have you
Yeah.
experienced, spirit in your body, connecting to spirit through your
Yeah.
body? Any good experiences, any bad experiences, but yeah, and also any questions, like I said, I think Dana and I have experienced maybe not everything, but quite a bit.
Yeah.
So
For sure.
we
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. But well, yeah, it was a good talk, and yeah, like I said, if anyone has any questions, you can DM us, you can comment when we post this, and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's been a really fascinating conversation, and it kind of makes me want to journey again with spirit on this, on this topic.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
Well,
that's
maybe that'll be
our
our
next live.
yes, for sure. That sounds good.
Yeah.
But thank you everyone for watching. And yeah, if you have any questions, let us know, and we will see you on our next live.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you want to journey with us one on one in a session, and you want to learn how to connect to your body,
Yeah.
or need help getting at some of the messages from your own body, you want to understand where you need to heal, where your focus needs to be, or where it is, and you would like really clear messages about that. Yeah, we offer one-on-one sessions. Well, two-on-one sessions.
2 to 1
Yeah.
sessions. Yeah, so you get both of us for
Yeah.
an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
Definitely. Yeah. Just click on the link in the bio. All that info's there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for being here, and yeah, we will see you on the next one.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Yeah. Good night.